Everyone, today is September 19th, 2020, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger. This week, still in the KC Cup. We're officially in Stage 2 of the KC Cup, so no new PvE events this week. But once we wrap it up, we should have the last event in Duelist Chronicles 5Ds. We'll discuss some of the esports going on. KC Cup discussion, talk about my own Stage 1 rank up deck, which I straight up copied off the internet, and also what deck I'm playing now. I kind of switched gears in Stage 2. Also look at the popular cards that are being played right now. Thanks to Konami's popularity ranking, we could do that. Card Trader update, new card, filling out the cubics. So we didn't know what happened to Vulcan Dragny. Here it is. Carboneddin, we're getting full copies of that card. Doug's casual deck of the week, not very casual. It's a tier 4 deck, Triamids. If you never knew how to play Triamids, I never played Triamids, you can check out Doug's casual deck of the week. And finally, the centerpiece of this episode, Zexal Gate Drop reactions. There's 9 new cards from Zexal World of some of the characters. They're apparently gate drops. You know, I never really like getting into leaks. I used to do that a lot back in the early days of this podcast, but we're going to go over those cards and see my initial reactions to those cards. Alright. So I hit DLV Max on Thursday, so I had a full day of nothing. I think Wednesday or Thursday. I had a full day of nothing. But I still played, my 4 duels a day to get my gems, of course, and I'm almost back to the max again, so I'll have the max again probably for the next box. And did it with Parallel Twister Witchcrafters. This time it took a while. Going through different decks. Card Curry, I just don't know how to play. I've given up on Card Curry. Synchro Toolbox just doesn't have the power. And I went back to Witchcrafters, the new version with Parallel Twister. I did go in Stage 2. I lost like 3 in a row. Decided to switch gears into 6 Sams. I'll talk about that deck later. Actually, I'll talk about 6 Sams right now. No, wait. I'll talk about it later. That is it for my week. Esports. So, Duel Links Meta Championship Series 34 happened last Saturday. And it kind of tells you the story of the meta. It's very meta geared list, and coincides with the tier list they put out. First place Kid Main, Switcheroo invoked Neos. Again, nothing is new with this deck. 3 Alistairs, 3 Keeper of Magic, 3 Volcanic Shell, 1 Neos, 2 Invocation, 2 Neos Fusion, 2 Cosmic Cyclones, and a lot of trap cards. The notable thing about this deck is it runs Needle Sealing. Needle Sealing is pretty good with the Brave Neos having the Neos protection in the graveyard. And I believe Coxitis... Oh, there's no Coxitis in this deck. Never mind. Second place, Hey Craig. Peak Performance, Black Wings. No Necro Valleys or Ancient Fairy Dragons. Blackbird Close, 2 copies. This is a card that they sometimes have 3 of here. And they kind of hedge the Cosmic Cyclones or one of the monsters, but 3 Blackbird Close. This is a deck I have a lot of trouble with in the KC Cup. I've just faced it a lot. And the amount of power it has is just remarkable. Top 4, Kurosoki, Restart, Card Curry. A little bit of everything in this deck. There's 2 offerings to the Doomed, 1 Gamma Oil, 1 Anatomy, 1 Gold Dust, and 1 Cash In. Usually they kind of hedge which ones they use, but they only use those. 2 Hey Trunades and 1 Cosmic Cyclone. You've seen 2 copies of each often. This one only runs 1 Cosmic Cyclone. 3 Kunamzans, and then they have the Nisamu over the Hypo. We saw Hypo for a little bit in some tournaments, but they're back to the basic level 4. And top 4, Dante KK, Level Duplication, Shiranui. Nothing really notable about this deck. Really the best Shiranui deck you can run, but it runs Gold Sarcophagus. Battle Phase number 100. Carl, first place. See you later. Evil Eye. Evil Eye, very viable tier 4 deck. Very predictable deck list. Not much to say. They do a little bit of everything. There's Storms for back row stuff, Treacherous Trap Hole for effect damage, Evil Eye Defeat for bouncing stuff. Your Medusa's gonna get real strong. Not much more to say about it. Second place, Lorenzo Roma's Show of Nightmares, Lightsworn Witchcrafter. You got the full Lightsworn package here. Your solar recharges, Lumina and Raiden and Lila and Minerva. The spell choices here, that's usually what defines a Witchcrafter deck, are 3 Galaxy Cyclones. No semi-limit cards used. Top 4, Gym Leader Brawl, Balanced Triamids. Doug Dimmaduel is going to talk about Triamids later. His is more of a... his trap cards are more defined, I think, but a lot of it is pretty core with this deck. His monster composition is a little different too, but we'll discuss it later. But Triamids have been revived thanks to Triamid Sphinx. And top 4, Ivory, Show of Nightmares, Lightsworn Witchcrafter. Again, you've got the full Lightsworn package in this one as well. This one notably runs a copy of the card called Dwimmered Path, which is a Carly Carmine card. Select a spellcaster effect monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So, this is like another holiday, in a way. They do run Dwimmered Path and only 2 unveilings, so that makes me a little wary. I would like to run 3 unveilings. But, you could recycle any of your spellcasters, so that could be Minerva is a tuner, so she's better, I guess, for that purpose. Raiden's a warrior. I guess you could get Lumina back to do a synchro summon. It does run 2 econs, too. Dwimmered Path is an interesting card for this deck. Alright, Duel Links Meta Weekly 142. First place, Poker Guy, Harpy's Hunting Ground, Black Wings. We never really see Harpy's Hunting Ground winning tournaments for some reason. You see a ton in the ladder, but this one it wins a tournament. And there's no Bora the Spear in this deck. That's notable. Runs Offerings to the Doomed as well. 3 copies of Blackbird Close, and no Cosmic Cyclones. Second place, Trap Dexter, Shadow Game, Stromberg. So, Lava Golem nerf. There's no more Lava Golems in this deck. It's been replaced with 2 copies of Chaos Hunter, which is an excellent card for countering banish effects. Top 4, Bahu 2, Mythic Depths, Sea Stealth Attack Cristrons. Psychic Wielder seems to have given this deck new life, giving it access to some level 6 synchro plays and some effect destruction. And don't forget that the 2 level 6 monsters here, Brionic and Coral Dragon, are both water monsters, so they work with Sea Stealth Attack in that ability where you could just banish that monster, and you get, well, first you could banish them and then you protect your spells and traps, or you can allow them to be basically give them like a shield to effect destroy when your opponent tries to ram them, because they're Brionic and Coral Dragon aren't particularly strong monsters. Top 4, Chinos TCG, Show of Nightmares, Witchcrafter. This does not have the full Lightsworn package, just the original Lila and Minerva. And there's some protection here. 3 copies of Forbidden Lance, and then some back row. 2 Galaxy Cyclones. Alright, so then we're going to move on to the KCC tier list. Tier 1, Invoked, Neos, and Witchcrafters. Witchcrafters, I would say they're good, but they're a little slow, so that works against you in the KC Cup. Invoked Neos could be the same speed. None of these decks are particularly fast. Witchcrafters could be fast, but they like to play the card advantage game, and that sometimes takes a while. Tier 2, we have Black Wings, Element Sabers, and Karakuri. Karakuri have been promoted primarily due to speed. They are an OTK deck, so they could get things done pretty fast. Not sure if their win percentage is up to snuff with the other decks, but they play fast. Tier 3, we have Blue Eyes, Dark Magician, Masked Heroes, and Shiranui have been demoted. We're still going to see plenty of Shiranui in this tournament, I can guarantee you. And off the tier list, we have Triamids and Valkyries. Valkyries never really had a footing, frankly. And Triamids, like I said, are a viable tier 4 deck, which means they are completely fine. You can go run them with confidence. It's not really in a tournament setting, like we're playing for money. Alright, so let's talk about the KC Cup. I got through it with this deck I copied right off the Potato Cup. So this is Ryouhei's Show of Nightmares Witchcrafter deck, which I dubbed the Parallel Twister deck. And, you know, there's not much to say about it. You know what? There is something to say about it. It doesn't really follow the complete mold for the Lightsworn. So there's Minerva, of course, for the level 3 synchro play. But then there's Raiden for the level 4. There's 2 tuners, and then there's no Lila. So usually it will just be Lila and Minerva, but now it's Raiden and Minerva. You only have 2 copies of Pittori, so this is a card you sometimes have 3 of. We only have 2. Everything else is the same. 2 Madame Veres, 1 Edel, 3 Schmeta, of course, and 2 Jenny. In terms of the Witchcrafter spells or the core spells, 2 copies of Charge of the Light Brigade, of course, for the Lightsworn part. 2 collaborations, 1 holiday to split with the Charge of the Light Brigade, and 3 unveilings. Trap cards, you have 1 each, the Patronus and the Masterpiece. 1 copy of Grasslock Screener, of course. And then the wild cards of this deck, 3 copies of Storm, 2 copies of Parallel Twister, and 2 Machine Angel Ritual. Storm is pretty standard in a lot of decks that do run Machine Angel Ritual because it's a card that doesn't do anything. You want it in the graveyard to give your monsters those protections, and Storm is the perfect card to do that with. Now, Parallel Twister is what makes this deck a little different. It's a card that's not really known, but anyone who has bought through Blades of Spirits to play 6 Sams has copies of this card. Normal spell, send 1 other spell or trap you control to the graveyard, then target 1 card on the field and destroy it. So you send yours and you destroy theirs. Storm is kind of different where you destroy your own spell and you destroy their spell. So Parallel Twister just sends it. And it's flexible for being able to destroy any card on the field, whether monster or back row. Could be face down, set, whatever, face up, whatever. So good counter to any. Sometimes you're locked out of Necro Valley and you don't have enough Galaxy Cyclones. Galaxy Cyclone exists because it can fight off Necro Valley. This one can just do it. Storm could just do it. So these 2, Storm and Parallel Twister, have advantages against Necro Valley. And further, this hits against monsters pretty good. Yeah. And then the extra deck's pretty standard too. Vermilion Dragon Mech, Arcanite Magician, Black Rose, Brionic, Star Eater, and Fortune Lady Every. I got through stage 1, and then in stage 2, I decided to play a faster deck, mostly because I didn't really have much success with this Witchcrafter deck in stage 2. I went to the Duel Links meta site with the Spicy Win Streaks, and there's this 6 Sam deck by King Feo. I don't have 3 Kizin. It's always been my problem with 6 Sams. I only have 2, so I put in the boss monster in it instead. So clunks up the deck a little bit more, a little less consistency. Ideally, I would put like a level 4 like Zanji or Iru in it, or another legendary secret. That's another possibility, but I did not. So I put in the boss monster Shin just to close things out. I think I clapped someone with it once when I had that full board. When I had a synchro Shin and then the regular samurai guy, so it worked pretty well. But anyways, this deck is Tie That Binds, so you could use any of those characters that use Tie That Binds. 1 Grandmaster, 2 Kizin, 1 Anishi, 1 Kizaru, 3 Fuma, of course, 1 Legendary Secret, 3 copies of 6 Samurai United. You're going to have to generate that card advantage. 1 Shen's Dojo, 2 Karma Cuts, that's what you're generating the card advantage for. 3 copies of Dual Wield, and 1 Return of the Sixth Samurai. And my deck, of course, like I mentioned, has the boss monster in it, which you'll need 2 other monsters, and then you'll special summon him, and then you could probably turn the 2 other monsters into a synchro play. Then the extra deck, 1 copy of Rihan for the Contact Fusion. Not the easiest to do when all the monsters have the same attributes. You're going to have different attributes. A lot of Earth monsters in this deck, unfortunately. A lot of Earth monsters in this deck. 1 copy of Brionic, 1 copy of Armades, 2 copies of Shi-En, the Synchro Monster, and 1 copy of HTS Behemoth. If you're missing like Kizun like I am, you could kind of use like a level 3 monster, maybe Hand of the Sixth Samurai or something, or the girl, I forgot what she's called, the pink one, but she's a water attribute, so then that kind of gives you room to make a level 4 synchro play, like Haster or something like that. Those are some possibilities if you're missing some of the cards, and you can make the deck a little more creative. Now, looking at the KC Cup itself, you just go on Duel Links and check out popular deck rankings. So they show you all the cards. That's not very helpful. Let's look at monsters. Alistair's number 1. Kairoy doesn't tell you much. 2 is Dark Magicians. 3 is Dark Magicians. So you could say Invokes are number 1s. Number 2 is Dark Magician. The Keeper of Dragon Magic shows you that the Invoked Neos is number 1. So then they have Magician's Rod, Elemental Hero Neos, and then Magician's Dark Illusion. That tells you all the same thing. So right now we're saying it's Invoked Neos, Dark Magician. 3 is Shiranui, since they have Spectral Sword and Solitaire and Squire. So 3 is Shiranui. 4 is Blue Eyes. They have all the Blue Eyes monsters here. Lava Golem's still around. The Lightsworn package shows up here. The Lightsworn package doesn't tell you much. They're used in every deck. So right now we have Invoked Neos, first place. Second place, Dark Magician. Third place, we have Shiranui. Fourth place, we have Blue Eyes. Fifth place, we have Black Wings. We're seeing all the Black Wing monsters here. Sixth place, we have Witchcrafters. Seventh place, we have Invoked Element Sabers. Eighth place, we have Cyber Dragons. That's all we got. So those are the main decks that people are playing right now. In terms of the spells, should tell you the same thing. We're starting to see some other decks in the spells, though. So the Magician Girl or Magicalized Fusion cards are there. Favorite Hero, we see that card. Lunalight Fusion. Aromas. Red Eyes Slash. Triamids. Karakuri. So Karakuri are way behind. Karakuris are behind Triamids. Alright, let's see if Traps can tell us anything. Traps show us Evil Eyes in the end. Maybe some Desperado stuff. There's Head Judging. There's Rebirth of Parshaft, so there's some fairy component going on as well. So those are some of those tier 4 decks that you don't really hear about. In the extra decks, we have Predaplant Chimera Fleecia, Coral Dragon, so it shows you Infernities, Super Heavy Samurais, so it's basically all the same stuff that we've ever faced. Like, basically everything plus Karakuris, that's the new deck here. And that's the Kaiba Cup. You know, like, I've mentioned this before, but if you're thinking about sitting out a Kaiba Cup, this is it. You know, we're waiting for the Zexal. It's pretty annoying, and we're all burned out, so if you're going to sit out one, this is the one to sit out. I personally am not going to stress out about it too much. I'm playing my 4 games for sure, just to get some gems and some whatever cards, and just chill. I'm not going to care about what my rank is. I used to shoot for like top 10,000 or top 1,000 in in the region or something, but I don't really care anymore. All right. So a few things. Card Trader update. We're finally getting Vulcan Dragny, the Cubic King. It didn't make sense that we got what's the guy's name? Agami, all of his Cubic cards. And then there was the card Garagile, and mentioned getting a Vulcan Dragny. And that was the card that's kind of missing in the cards we got. So they finally released it to the public, which makes sense. And the archetype obviously is not strong enough that they had to limit this card. So Vulcan Dragny, the Cubic King, level 3, Fire Fairy, 0/0. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your hand by sending 2 cubics you control to the graveyard. If summoned this way, this card gains 1600 attack. If this card is special summoned from the hand, inflict 800 damage to your opponent. At the end of the damage step of this card battled, you can target up to 3 of a Job the Cubic Seed in your graveyard. Send this to the graveyard. If you do special summon them, then you can add a Endora Doomvault the Cubic Emperor from your deck to your hand. So, yes, Garagile can tutor this card. This gives us another level 3 monster. We only had one before, and that was Blade Garudia. And now that we have both of these cards, we can see a comparison. This is the counterpart. This is the subsidiary to Endora Doomvault, because it inflicts 300 damage, and it's a little weaker. The Blade Garudia is the same as Buster Gundle, where it's stronger. It comes out as 2000 attack, no burn damage, but it can hit up to twice a turn. So then, this is the counterpart to Endora. The other one is the counterpart to Buster Gundle. So, you could go 2 different routes. I think the burn strategy is better because they have that Cubic Karma card that lets you reduce your opponent's life points by half. So this could be the better play in my book. Now, the other card that we got this week is Carbonettin. Carbonettin is not a new card, but it's been 2.5 years since we got Bastion, and we only had 1 copy. So this was Bastion's level 45. So we got a full play set of Carbonettins. Level 3 Earth Dinosaur, 800, 600. When this battles a fire monster, during damage calculation, it gains 1000 attack during that calculation only. You can banish this card from the graveyard, special summon from your hand or deck a level 7 or lower dragon normal monster face up defense. So the whole point of this card is it's a flavor card to Yozenru. It's carbon turning into diamonds. So that's what Yozenru has, like a really high defense. It's a normal monster, but it's like 2 tributes for 2100, 2800. It's one of the most unplayable cards around. But this card is relevant for Red Eyes Black Dragon. Red Eyes Black Dragon is a level 7 normal monster. It's a dragon, and it has like all this other synergy as well. So it can cheat out Red Eyes. But we do have enough Red Eyes support. A lot of trap cards, Return of Red Eyes Spirit, whatever. Red Eyes Fusion already dumps Red Eyes into the graveyard for a Red Eyes Slash, and then you could use those other trap cards to get Red Eyes out if you need it. So even if we got this Carbonettin, it's not a very useful card in the meta, really. It can hit some Shiranui monsters, I guess, but that's not really... It's not very useful. Alright, so Doug Dimmaduel is here. He has Triamids this week. Frankly, I didn't know anything about Triamids. It's a deck I've only ever faced, and I wouldn't know how to play the cards. So I learned a lot from listening to this. There's nothing really spicy about this deck. It's a basic Triamid deck. Teaches you how to play the deck, what combos to use, or whatever. It's a fine tier 4 deck, as I mentioned a few times in this podcast. So definitely a card to run out with confidence if you're going for King of Games, or even just run it out for the KC Cup if you feel like it. So here is Doug Dimmaduel with Triamids.
Hey there, this is Doug Dimmaduel with Doug's Casual Deck of the Week. So this week I just want to go through an oldie but a goodie, but it's kind of coming back since we got one piece of additional support in the recent mini box, and that's Triamids. Now this is just the whole, we've always had three Triamid monsters, they're all rock monsters. But now we have a fourth, Triamid Sphinx. All right, it's a level 10 rock monster with 2,500 attack, 2,500 defense. It cannot be normal summoned or set and must be special summoned with the effect of a Triamid card and cannot be special summoned by other ways. If a face-up Triamid card you control except Triamid Sphinx is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. While you control another Triamid card, this card gains 500 attack and defense for each spell card with a different name in your graveyard. Also, monsters your opponent controls cannot attack except to attack Triamid Sphinx. So it's really just kind of like a beefy boss monster that protects your weaker Triamids because they're not the strongest when it comes to attack and defense. When we're looking at Triamid Dancer, it's only got 600 attack, 1900 defense. When we're looking at Triamid Hunter, it's got 1400 attack, 1100 defense. And Triamid Master with 1800 attack, 700 defense. That was the beefy one for the longest time, was that 1800 attack. So, really just kind of looking at this deck, you could run one or two copies of Sphinx, but because I like symmetry, I am running 3 copies of each Triamid monster. So I have 3 copies of Sphinx, 3 copies of Master, 3 copies of Hunter, and 3 copies of Dancer. So at least how the other cards go, it's a very simple, straightforward deck. I'll just run my 3 copies of Triamid Cruiser, 3 copies of Triamid King Golem, and then my 2 copies of Triamid Fortress. It's not always the one that I want the most, so I'll run my 2 copies of it because, each time you send one of these field spell cards to the graveyard, they'll activate an effect. And with Fortress, you can add a card from your graveyard back to your hand, a monster in particular. That's Triamid. So usually that's better for a later game. But with Triamid Cruiser, you can add 1 Triamid monster from your deck to your hand. That's the one that I really want to try and start with. While Triamid King Golem, it allows you to special summon 1 Triamid monster from your hand when it's sent to the graveyard. So that's another way to summon your Triamid Sphinx. So that's why I don't mind running 3 copies of it, because odds are there's going to be a way for me to special summon this sucker regardless. So it's a really, really good, quick effect type of deck, because during your opponent's turn, you can send a field spell from your field zone to the graveyard, and then bring on another Triamid field spell with a different name. So it allows you to kind of shuffle through and change your strategy during your opponent's turn very easily, while also activating some of those secondary effects when they're sent to the graveyard. So there's not a whole lot to it. It's a very simple deck when you kind of go through it, but the reason why I like Triamid Master is the ability to send another one of your Triamid cards from the field to the graveyard, and it doesn't have to be a field spell. It could be another monster. So if you have Hunter on the field, you can send Hunter to the graveyard and then destroy one of your opponent's set cards. Now, this does not mean it's a set card in the spell and trap zone. This means that it could also be a set monster. So if they're playing something like Sub-Terrors or anything along those lines where they're keeping monsters set during their turn, well, you could go ahead and pop one of their set cards, send that sucker to the graveyard. It's still a pretty underrated effect, and it's one of the more fun aspects of playing a Triamid deck is to pop some of those set cards with your Triamid Master. So, really good deck. I like the attack boost and the defense boost that each of the field spells give your monsters. I really like the Triamid King Golem because if a Triamid monster you control battles, your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated until the end of the damage step. So anything fishy that they're trying to do while you're attacking, it's not possible because you're basically negating all that. They can't activate anything. So, like I said, this addition of Triamid Sphinx makes the deck just a little bit more explosive. It adds a very strong monster to the field. Even during your opponent's turn or during your own turn, you can get very creative with it. It's a very flexible deck. It's one that's more of a control reactive deck. But now there's a boss monster thrown into it. So the addition of Sphinx, a lot of fun. I think in a casual setting, you'll definitely enjoy playing Triamids. It's just a really cool deck. And if you like rock monsters, you can kind of finagle with it with some of the other rock support. But this deck I wanted to put together to be very, very simple, and it sure was. So anyway, that's it for my casual deck of the week. I will see you next time. Take care.
Alright, thanks, Doug. You can check out Doug's Casual Deck of the Week every week on this podcast. Check out his Twitter account at Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk. Alright, so the last part of this episode is going through the Zexal gate drops. This is a bit of a reaction piece again, since I know nothing about Xyz or Xyz World. But based on these characters, Yuma, Tsukumo, Brockstone, and Tori Meadows, I was listening to Duel Links Radio, another podcast, it's about a month ago or 2 months ago. Maybe it was a month ago, where he was explaining all the characters. So I believe Yuma's the main character, Brockstone is kind of like Tristan, and Tori Meadows is like Taya. So with that context in mind, these are all good guys, and they are not. Well, Yuma's the main duelist, but the other two are not really duelists, so take that what you will. These are supposed to be gate drops. I used to go over leaks a lot on this podcast, but now I've kind of stuck to the real stuff. I figured that with Zexal World around the corner, they're going to release a ton of stuff at once, and I'm not going to have the time to go through it all, so I'm going to go through these 9 cards with confidence that they're coming into the game. So here are my first reactions to some Xyz cards. So Yuma Tsukumo, first card, Gaga Magician, level 4, Dark Spellcaster, 1500, 1000. Once per turn, you can declare a level from 1 to 8. This card becomes that level until the end phase. You can only control one Gaga Magician. This card cannot be used as a synchro material. So this card modulates levels with ease, 1 to 8. That really covers all you need. So it can't be used as a synchro material, which makes me think this is just a straight up Xyz piece. And it allows you to run a full toolbox of Xyz monsters of different ranks, so you can modulate accordingly depending on what other monsters you have in your deck. Now, this card doesn't cheat itself out, though. I think that's what prevents it from being OP. And the ability seems to be like an ability you activate yourself, so you're going to have to press again on the monster to select that level, and then your opponent could possibly chain into that effect. They could flip it face down, for example. So that'll prevent this card from being too strong. It's a slower monster who modulates levels. It does cheat out with Mystic Tomato as a floater, because it's a dark monster with 1500 attack. So you could use Mystic Tomato, Sangan, or Witch of the Black Forest to get this guy out. But there it is. I'm sure there are going to be better monsters to use, because I believe speed is the name of the game, similar to synchro monsters where you can just cheat them out in one turn. This one's a little slower. Next card's Go Golem, level 4, Earth Rock, 1800, 1500. Once per turn, this defense position card cannot be destroyed by battle. This is very similar to Fortress Guardian, but that card's better. It's protected by battle and effect destruction. This one's just by battle, so you can effect destroy it pretty fast. This does have 1800 attack though, but that's not really the point. The point of a stall card is not really to attack. It's just to stay on the board. And the Fortress Guardian's better at that. Dark Resonator can do that too. It can take 2 hits a turn. This guy cannot. Finally, an Xyz monster. Tempo, the Percussion Djinn. Level 3, Earth Attribute, rank 3, Fiend. 2 level 3 monsters, 1700 attack, 1000 defense. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card, then target one face-up Xyz monster your opponent controls, detach an Xyz material from that monster, and if you do, all Djinn Xyz monsters you control gain 500 attack. This doesn't seem very good. From a stats standpoint, 2 level 3s for a 1700. You could buff your own monsters, but then the ability is situational. They have to have an Xyz monster on the board. Then you have that ability to remove an Xyz material from that monster. I think that's a pretty good ability. I'm going to have to see how common that ability is. If other monsters just do it, then this card's not very good. But if this is one of the few cards that does it, then it's decent. Then you buff your monsters, your Djinn Xyz monsters by 500. More than likely, this is going to be 2200, and there's going to be nothing else on the board. So take that what you will. This is going to be a 2200. You make them lose an Xyz material. I don't think it's very good. So let's look at Bronxstone. Tin Archduke. Earth Machine, rank 4, 3 level 4 monsters. 2200 attack, 1200 defense. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can detach an Xyz material from this card, target one monster your opponent controls, change its battle position, flip effects are not activated. So we're going to have to see how good this is. Are Xyz monsters that require 3 materials worth it? This requires a full board of level 4 monsters. I believe there are better uses of a full board. Like you could use Destiny Hero Plasma. You could use those Arcana Force X monsters or whatever they call them. So, I think there are better ways to use a full board, and the stats aren't good on this guy. 2200, 1200. This does remind me a lot of Karakuri's Shogun Burai, but it's an inferior monster than Burai, because that card can also change battle positions on monsters each turn, and it's stronger. And it's easier to do with the Synchro Summon, frankly, with the Karakuri. So, overall, I think this card's not very good. Next card is Wind Up Honeybee, level 1 Earth Insect 100, 300. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Wind Up monster from your deck. So, Battle Destruction Floater for the Wind Up archetype. There's already a few Wind Up cards in Duel Links, so we might get more support with Bronxstone's level up cards. Battle Destruction is not very reliable, though, I will say. Not a lot of people run Battle Destruction Floaters, so we'll see how playable this card is. I don't think it seems very good right now. Now, the next card I do like, though, Weights and Zen Measures. Normal spell will target 2 face-up wind-up monsters you control with different levels. Your opponent chooses one of them, and the level of the other monster becomes the same as the chosen monsters until the end phase. Then, if your opponent chose the monster with a lower level, you can draw a card. So the goal of this is to have 2 different wind-up monsters with different levels, and then you make them the same. So I looked it up, and wind-ups have rank 3, 4, and 5 Xyz summons. So as long as Bronxstone can provide that, you are guaranteed an Xyz summon. You could build your deck so that your extra deck has 3, 4s, and 5s. You make them pick, and then you're guaranteed an Xyz summon. You could also put other monsters that are not wind-ups in the deck, so in the extra deck, so that you can increase your chances of making an Xyz summon. And then you could even get a card draw. And you're going to line your monsters up so their levels are the same, and then you can make that Xyz summon. And then you could surprise your opponent. They're not going to know what's in your extra deck. So I really like this card. It can make wind-ups a thing. Now let's look at Tori Meadows. Fairy Cheer Girl. I think this card's been discussed before by other podcasts. Level 4 Fairy, rank 4 Light Fairy, 2 level 4 monsters, 2 level 4 fairies. I'm really struggling here. 1900 attack, 1500 defense. You can detach one Xyz material from this card, draw a card. You can only use this effect once per turn. So there was a Light Fairy floater recently, and that's sure enough to help this card Xyz summon. Card advantage card, any card. This will give you 2 card draws in a card. So any deck that requires a drawing win condition, like an Exodia or something, where Exodia does it better though, I think. So this could be. It doesn't really fit. Fairies don't really need to draw cards, frankly, but it is what it is. You're not gonna use this in Exodia because you need fairies, and Exodias are spellcasters, I think. Yeah, this isn't gonna work for Exodia. Archlord Zerato, level 8 Light Fairy, 2800 attack, 2300 defense. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except by attributing one face-up Warrior of Zera on your side of the field, while Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field. If the Sanctuary in the Sky is on your side of the field, by discarding one light monster from your hand to the graveyard, destroy all monsters on your opponent's side of the field. If Sanctuary in the Sky is not on your field, this effect is not applied. So Sanctuary of the Sky decks are going to get weakened. You're going to have to put in a 1600 vanilla monster, which is the Warrior of Zera, into your deck. And this summoning condition is not the best. You're going to need that Zera on the board. your opponent's probably not going to mess with it. You're going to need Sanctuary in the Sky in the field zone, and you're going to need Arc Lord Zerato in your hand. So it's a very clunky way of getting a monster out. Now, if you do get it out, you have a big play where you use discard and blow up their board. Black Rose Dragon does it a little easier, but Black Rose Dragon blows up the entire board. There are better ways of doing it. I think Ruin and Demise are probably better. Finally, Stellar Nova Wave, Continuous Trap. Once per turn during your main phase or your opponent's battle phase, special summon one Teller Knight monster from your hand. We have Constellars, but not Stellar Knights or Teller Knights. So Constellars themselves were a bit XZ themed, and I think they will come back. They seem to be one of the easier ways to get XZ summoned out, so get your Constellar monsters ready. But this seems to be a different archetype. There isn't much to say except if Stellar Knights or Teller Knights become a viable archetype or an archetype, a tier 4 archetype in some way, this is going to be a core card for that deck. Alright, so that is all. Upcoming news, we know that Duelist Chronicles 5D's Fight for the Fortune Cup is coming on the 21st, so Monday, once the dust settles from the Kaiba Cup, and there's going to be a new card, Psychic Snail. Duel Quest as well, and then the massive update, which I believe is on the 29th. So that is it for the podcast. Thanks for listening. Search for this podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast. Just search the Duel Assessment, search Duel Links Podcast, and you'll find it. All the notes are on the duelassessment.wordpress.com. Email me with anything at theduelassessment@gmail.com, or find me on Twitter, duel_assessment. I think I may be coming out of my shell by the time XZs comes, but I've just been so, I'm not tired, but my clock is off from work, so my work hours are a little weird, so that's what's going on. My body's not adjusting. I'll be back in some time, but in the meantime, enjoy and have fun.